calling all sports fans and athletes. Have you ever longed for a place to converse about your passion for sports? Hang out, talk sports, meet athletes, and be heard. Sports Chat TV. And here's your host, Brooke Brown.
Welcome to Sports Chat TV, everybody. Tonight we're going to talk about Major League Baseball, the season thus far, the ups, the downs that we've seen. It's been quite interesting. I'm sure you've seen this guy before here, but he's going to introduce himself, and hopefully, Kevin Mench will join us later. So, Daniel, you're back.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Daniel Fontaine, longtime Boston-based fan, Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, and, glad to be here tonight and rap a little bit about the first month of summer's pastime. So
yeah, it's been quite interesting actually so far. There's been teams that have kind of been shocking the world lately, and teams that aren't shocking the world, which should be, is what I've noticed. So as we currently speak, there are about 11 games going on. One hasn't started yet. No, two haven't started yet. And we had 5 games yesterday. So, the Milwaukee-San Diego series, right now, currently in the top of the ninth inning, San Diego's got the Brewers in a hold, 5 runs up. What do you think about that series? Like, just right now, like how the Brewers have been playing and how the Padres, surprisingly, are playing well.
Yeah, the Padres are a little bit of a, they seem to, get a little something going in terms of the talent that they have, and then they kind of get fleeced a little bit, and they're persistent, and obviously they're off to a little bit of a tough start, but they're definitely sticking to the Brewers tonight, and obviously the Brewers are dealing with a little bit of a change of the landscape over there with obviously some of the larger departures that they've had. So it's the NL. There's a few teams that are kind of just going to run away with it kind of consistently, it seems like, and then there's some of that second tier that kind of tend to mix it up a little bit.
In terms of, you watch the American League, but do you think the National League has somewhat increased their playing ability recently? It's not all about the American League, or do you just think it's just the season's just weird and it's too early to call?
I think it's a combination of the both. There's a certain ebb and flow to some of the, kind of dominance between the two leagues and stuff like that. Obviously, the AL is kind of where I'm at and what I concentrate on. But, seeing somebody like, the Nationals that are playing kind of really well right now. And, again, there's kind of like the standard, your Cardinals and your, Phillies and stuff like that you can kind of expect to be top tier. But, seeing something like what the Nationals are, doing is good. And, at the end of the day, I think that there's a little give and take, and it's a long season, 162 games, and, like us fans in Boston found out last year, you can start rough, you can play out of your mind in the middle of the year, and then you can completely fall apart at the end of the year. And
yeah.
you know what I mean? And forgive me, but I'm still a little. I thought the start of the season would be some nice closure for me here, and for a few days it was, but it quickly turned into angst again.
Speaking of our Red Sox, do you think, as we were talking in the pre-show, that it's due to the managerial changes that we've seen with Valentine, or do you think the media is playing so much on it right now, saying that there's so much drama in the clubhouse that
I think that it's easy to blame Bobby V. I'll tell you, I don't like him. I hope that I grow to like him. I hope that I start to find something endearing about him that makes me say, okay, I can get behind the person that is in the helm of my team. But I don't think he's to blame. I think a lot of the issues that the Red Sox are experiencing here early on in the year have to do with, the previous GM. I love Theo. I love what he's done, but there's the Lackey contract, obviously the Crawford contract. There's obviously you can't anticipate Andrew Bailey getting hurt so late in the spring training that you don't really have time to say, okay, we got a solid back closer that's going to take the thing. And it's easy to blame, and I think the Boston media, it's such a pressure cooker. The market, things that go unnoticed in other markets are just put under a microscope here, and it's easy to blame them. And as somebody who almost wants to blame him, because again, I don't, at this point, I'm not totally behind him. I don't think he's to blame, and I think that the remaining, Ben Cherington and company have their work cut out for them, with some of the bad contracts and injuries and things like that have kind of been in the wake of Theo's departure. But again, that's my 2 cents on that whole thing.
Well, in watching recent ESPN shows or, reading up on this season, you see Curt Schilling, who has got to be one of my favorite players of all time. I mean, he did well here in Arizona. He did well as a Red Sox. But now as an analyst on ESPN, it's interesting how he's quick to blame Valentine and just how things are in the clubhouse and how the rules have kind of changed and how the team just really hasn't really been coming together after their meltdown last year. So, I mean,
even last year, a lot of times, what made the 04 and the 07, there was a certain level of kind of chemistry in as we say here in Boston, kind of like a dirt dog element, that they, like what you see out of Dustin Pedroia, that real like fire and that intensity. And even last year, at least for me, I think there wasn't that same there wasn't, short of really Pedroia and there wasn't people that I, as a fan, as a lifelong fan with the ups and the downs and everything in between, I had a tough time, really getting fired up and excited about it. And I think that kind of resonates with a lot of the fan base here and in the media here. And I think this team is a little bit of an extension of that. There's, a few people that you like, but they don't really have that, just undying passion. Obviously, David Ortiz, he's a guy that, is kind of playing out of, he's playing for a contract this year. He lost 20-some-odd pounds, and he's, the game I was at Monday night, he hit 2 bombs and, gets around the bases quickly. But there's not a lot of passion and, I dare say, endearing qualities to where, the masses here can really rise up and feel confident in what the product that's being placed on the field. And again, it's easy to blame Bobby V. I think, people are quick to say he leaves pitchers in too long. There's definitely some issues, but I don't think it's the only reason. And the only time will tell. I mean, they got hot there for 6 games, and then they're losing tonight, and they lost last night. So, and Uke went on the DL. Beckett's going to miss a start. So, I mean, they're dinged up, So, it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. And I guess I'm going with rivalries right now. I don't know why, because. But in terms of the Yankees. The Yankees aren't as good as they used to be, people. And I know the Yankee fans are going to be pissed off because I said this, because they kind of get that I'm a Boston fan too. But let's just think about this quickly. They're not winning as much. They're kind of even right now with the Mets. People forget about the New York Mets. Mm-hmm. The Mets are playing well this season. So, as much as Steinbrenner, he built such an empire for the Yankees, and they've had Jeter, and they've had A-Rod, and they've had all these great players in the past, Posada, and the list goes on. Is it quick to say that now that we're seeing a little bit more of that?
I mean, I think their pitching situation is it's similar to the Sox in some sense. There's not a lot of consistency there. I honestly think if it wasn't for Curtis Granderson and Jeter's play, what does Granderson have, like 8 or 9 bombs on the year? I mean, he's one of those guys where you're like, how does he do it? But obviously Jeter there was off to a hot start. And yeah, I mean, what are they, in third in the AL East right now, I think, behind the Rays in Baltimore? I mean,
yeah.
You told me after the first month that Boston would be in last and the Yankees would be in, like I said, I think it's third. Even with the turnover and the situation, I'd have a hard time being sold on that bill of goods. But, again, it's only a month, too. So there's ebbs and flows, and,
Yeah.
I'm not a Yankee hater. There's a lot.
Well, I'm not trying to be, but I'm just saying that how like every season, it's like the Yankees can do no wrong. But in my opinion, I like that there's more competition as you're seeing. There's teams that are surprising people. I mean, last year's playoffs. I mean, it was interesting to watch. So
yeah, there's more parity, and that's good for the sport. And I think it's important, there's the high payroll teams like, the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Angels now. That whole story coming out of the Angels with Albert's woes in April, that's an interesting little thing going on there, but I'm sure we'll touch on that maybe here in a little bit. But, that being said, I just think, the AL East has always had the wild card come out of it, or not always, but for a large part has had a wild card come out of it, and I don't think that's going to be the case this year.
Well, not to bring it back to the National League, I'm over here with the Diamondbacks, and as much as I don't get me wrong, I used to love the Diamondbacks. Back in 2001 when they won the World Series, that was one of the best assembled teams I've ever seen in my life. But since then, no. Yeah. I mean, how can you beat having both Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling as your aces? Closures, we had Byung-Hyun Kim, and we had some great pitchers. And then, I mean, one of the best base stealers in the league, we had Tony Womack. Mm-hmm. So those are the good old days in Arizona, and now people have either retired or that team was completely dismantled, and now even some of the players that were playing then are now like managers, like Jay Bell is. So, I mean, I'm happy for the team to be getting better, but it seems like it's been rebuilding since the World Series. It's hard for me to pay attention to my own state team because we've been rebuilding for so long, and there's, as much as there was some fever last year, I mean, Arizona's just not a sports state. So unless something happened well for one of our teams, like playoff-wise, people don't really pay attention much.
Yep.
It's not like Boston or New York or around the world where, in the country, the people are like really into their teams and into what is going on. Arizona's very complacent.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I don't know.
And I've only been in Boston, so I only know. And it's a blessing and a curse to have that much of a passionate fan base and the media circus that surrounds it. I mean, you listen to sport radio here, and whether it's the C's or the B's or the Sox or any of the Pats or whatever, it's just the hyper, just the tenacity at which both the callers and the hosts kind of go at these guys for the littlest things, and some of them are things that would literally go unnoticed in 60% of the other markets, or whatever. But, you get into New York, you get into Boston, you get into some areas where, maybe Chicago a little bit or whatever. Everything's really, really focused. If you told me, it's funny, we talk about the woes of the AL East, but if you even look out in the West in the NL, what the Dodgers are doing, I don't know, just seeing the way things fell in the off season. You told me the Angels would be in last in the AL West, and the Dodgers would be in first in the NL West. Just after the divorce and all the things that happened, kind of aside from the players. I mean, Matt Kemp's still Matt Kemp, and all that stuff. But it's You never know. It's why they play the games, they say.
Yeah. Sorry. For all of you who don't know, I'm currently trying to get our former baseball player in the hangout. He's having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're going to keep going until I can get him in here. So, in terms of other matchups currently going on right now, we've talked about the Brewers, the Padres. What do you think about Chicago, the Cubs, how the Cubs are doing versus Cincinnati? They're up 2 runs in the top of the 8th. The Cubs or the White Sox? I don't know. I don't really have a preference, but the
I'm
Cubs
a
seem
Cubs
to get...
guy.
Okay.
I have to say I like the Cubs only because they're, you know, their hard luck story is only second to what my Sox had gone through, kind of thing. And as much as I, you know, probably lay some blame on, you know, Theo for some of the situation they are now.
Welcome aboard, Kevin.
It's hard for me not to root for him a little bit.
Hi, yeah. Thanks for joining, Kevin. I'm glad I could finally get you in here. This is Daniel. We've been kind of just talking for a while.
Hey, Kevin. Nice to meet you.
Can't hear you. Are you a little muted, or?
Let's see here. There you go.
There you go.
The better? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Excellent.
Yeah, we were just kind of just talking about some of the games going on right now, and kind of if you would like to, we're talking about the Cubs and Cincinnati, and which is the better Chicago team. So,
you know, I actually haven't been watching much baseball lately. Just been running around really, but you know, I've been keeping up with the Rangers because it's. I mean, they've been playing really well the last few days. They haven't, but it's just how baseball goes. I don't know. I guess it's still early. It's going to be an interesting year just to see how everything pans out. I mean, you've got some guys that are just on fire right now. Matt Kemp is.
Yeah, I just mentioned him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just continued from last year, just keeps running away with it. And I think he really wants that MVP award that he got snubbed from last year. So if he can just continue to do what he's doing, Dodgers are going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, I mean they're playing out of their minds. I mean the Rangers too. I mean they're scary. You know, I'm in Boston, Kevin, so you know a long time Red Sox, born and bred here in Massachusetts and whatnot. And obviously they got some woes, but seeing what the Rangers have been doing, I'm like, they're unless they have some injuries or what have you, they're gonna put a whooping on a lot of people this year. But again, it's only been 1 month, so kind of keep telling myself that.
Well, I asked this to Daniel, but do you think? Are you going for the American League or more? Do you think the National League is better than they used to be, or either or?
Which do I prefer, or what do I think?
What do you think?
I mean, you look. Just go back to last year. I mean, the Rangers were dominant, but when it comes down to is, you know, that it's the National League baseball. I mean, I grew up on National League baseball, so I mean, that's the baseball I like to watch. It's more interesting because it's more of a chess match than it is in the AL, and it just comes down to, you know, your matchups and everything else. In the American League, you just throw guys out there left and right. In the National League, it's a chess match. You've got to plan ahead to what you need to do because you're going to run out of your bench eventually. I think that's the biggest thing some of these American League teams have are guys that are DHs, you know, mostly, and then have to go play the position. You know, really can hurt their teams defensively.
Yeah. Do you think is there ever been a league that's like always been better matched, like in terms of their teams, or do you think it just depends on the season?
It just depends on the season, really. I mean, there's a lot of turnover. You know, there's young guys coming up. You just never know what you're going to get. But it's funny it's the All-Star games have had. That's where you think it's the dominance starts with the American League over the National League for I think it was 8 or 9 straight All-Star games or something. So I mean, you look at that, but then you look at the World Series winners. I think they're pretty much split. So It doesn't really. It just varies really from year to year.
So in grand terms, how do you think the Phillies will rank this year after their playoff run last year?
They just they've like Daniel was talking about earlier. It's the first month, but you've got to just keep it close. If you can remain within 5 or 6 games and wait for your guys to get healthy, or for the team, the Phillies team, they don't have an identity right now. They're lost without Utley and Ryan. So they're trying to find themselves. But I think once they do and realize they can do it without them, they'll be that much better once they do. Hopefully they do come back. Like I said, I don't think Ryan will be back till late in the season. And as far as Chase, I don't know. But if you just keep it close, anything can happen. You get hot at the right time, and that turns teams to the World Series.
Mm. It's about teams clicking too.
We kind of touched on that earlier about like the scrutiny on the Red Sox in the media right now of how they're gelling with. I know. Do you think the media is overplayed?
They take something and run with it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin, being here, it's such a pressure cooker, and they're just so hungry for something to talk about, and they got 2 competing sports radio channels, and they got the callers, and things that would be passed over as stories in 60, 65, 70% of the other markets, it turns into something here. They take something and take nothing and make it something, but, and it's tricky too, I mean, there's people who have come here and struggled as players, and then they go elsewhere and they get on fire. And I was curious just because it's kind of obviously a story now that April's wrapped, but Pujols' struggles, because it's a big deal, goes out west, and that's a similar type of thing where somebody, I don't know who it was, one of the Yahoo writers just wrote a big long thing today about all that, and it's like, I wonder if somebody like that's used to being under that magnifying glass that I think a lot of the players for all the Boston sports teams kind of live under, and how that can affect their, I guess, on-field psyche or whatever.
I mean, Albert's, I think he's thinking too much right now. It's one of those things. It happens to everybody. You get in your own head and you try and make a little adjustments with your swing and everything else, trying to make up for it. And it's one of those things where you almost have to take a step back. That just being it's as hard as it seems. I mean, that's probably the easiest thing to do. But like I said, he'll come back, and like I said, it's going to be a closer race than it is right now. People think that Texas is going to run away with this. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, I mean, he started like this before, and he ended up last year with 37 home runs. I mean, it's something that he's capable of doing. And I don't know what's going on up there in Boston with your guys.
It's easy to point fingers and stuff. I was saying that, prior to you getting into the discussion here, I think that a lot of their woes are, as a fan that's seen, the teams that maybe in the talent category had a few studs and then some complementing characters and stuff and what have you, but a lot of kind of camaraderie and chemistry that helps things gel, and kind of unify things. Last year's team and even this year's team, just outside looking in, seem a little lacking in that area, a little disjointed, and I don't know how much that really weighs into it, but again, as last year taught us Boston's fans, it's a long year, and you can start rough and then be the hottest team in the league and, end up falling on your face. So, it's a long season, and like you were just saying, I think what appears to be the standings now and what they're going to be in July and what they're going to be in September are, greatly different, and I just hope that they can find a way to gel and overcome some of the injuries and stuff.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is the injuries. I mean, it's hard to play when your team's, in shambles.
Mm.
There is, from what I've seen, there's a lot of finger pointing. It's just, you need somebody they need some attitude in there. Somebody just to get everybody together. Maybe they need to fight each other or something. Sometimes it takes to go after each other. But
yeah, well,
that's just what baseball is. Everybody's it's one of those things where you almost, like you said, without you got to take that step back.
Yeah. And I was saying to Brooke when both in the pre-show and just once we got going, short of like Pedroia, who's just a dirt dog, gritty player, somebody that his passion is fire, you can kind of really, as a fan, hopefully as a teammate, you can kind of rally around. He seems like him and maybe David are the only two like lightning rods in that capacity, where I think in teams past there was a few more complementing characters that could, help in that leadership role. I think Baratek being gone in terms of being a clubhouse leader, I think that's probably, playing into it again a little bit too. But, I don't know, is what it is. Talking too much about Red Sox here, bro.
Yeah, and the pitching staff's young too for the most part.
Well, I asked about the Phillies, but no. Well, I mean.
What about them?
No, we can move on from the Red Sox, but my last question was about the Phillies, so I was like, how do we get back to the Red Sox?
No, what about? I mean, it's.
No, I was actually we're gonna move.
They seem to be going through the same thing.
Yeah, it's
okay.
The cycle right now, but St. Louis is up 11-1 over Pittsburgh, but there's a rain delay or weather delay currently. So, you think how's St. Louis doing? Of course, Pittsburgh has been interesting in the last few seasons, but
I mean, St. Louis they don't seem like they're missing Albert very much right now. They've just it's one of those things where they've moved on without him. They understood that that after last year that he was probably going to be gone, and they've moved on. They've got guys that can fill the role. You just hope that like I said, it's still early. Hope they can sustain it. They've got Wainwright's back. They haven't had. I don't think they're missing anybody really as far as injuries. So I mean, it's one of those things where you just stay healthy and just continue to roll. It's. Like I said, that should be a fun division as well, because if Milwaukee can get everybody going, and it should be pretty interesting.
So, if you were to predict anything, who do you think after the All-Star break is gonna take it? Well, get better or start their runs, or do you have any predictions for the rest of the season? Either one of you.
It's still way too early, because you never know what's gonna happen as far as the injuries. Guys will get called up, so it's just a matter of seeing what they're capable of. Like I said, the NL East is gonna be another fun division to watch. Once those teams.
Do you think the Pettit testimony yesterday against Clemens is having any bearing on how players are preparing for seasons, or do you think the players are even paying attention to, the possibility of something being this serious?
No, I mean, probably most of the younger guys aren't, just because they don't know any better. The older guys, it's just one of those things where, all right, let's move on. You talk about let's move on. It's not really, it doesn't pertain to them. Guys really don't get hung up in that kind of stuff, unless it pertains to guys on their team or whatnot. So, I mean, like I said, it's a long enough season where you don't have to worry about your team. You don't have to worry about all the outside stuff.
Do you think it's interesting that Pettit decided to testify against Clemens?
That he what?
Decided to testify against his old friend and say what he deliberately said in court, or do you think it's just comes with the territory?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, I don't know. Maybe he's trying to cover his own ass. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what happened, or who did what, or who helped what. But like I said, that's what happens. When they put your ass on the line, you start singing like a canary if you can get out of it. So,
what were you gonna say, Daniel?
I was just gonna say I can't really speak to it. I've been tied up. I just hadn't seen what happened or anything, so I'm not just being silent. For the sake of being silent, I just don't know what happened to really speak to it, unfortunately.
Basically, Andy said in court that he shot up and that Clemens did, and he watched him do it. And it was kind of, according to the reports I've seen, it was pretty intense that after all this time, he's now claiming that Clemens has been lying this whole time. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. You know, it's one of those.
Like I said, I guess the best thing to do is just come forward and be honest with it. And
yeah, I think
I'm glad I'm not in that situation.
Yeah, for Roger, I think he took that stance, and good, bad, or indifferent, he's holding that line. But it's sad. As a fan of the sport, to see some of these people that through my formative years or whatnot. I was cleaning out my garage the other day, and I found a lot of my baseball cards, and I had like the one book that had a lot of these guys. I was going through it, and it was like a lot of these guys that were the guys that I like set aside, and was like, oh, these have a special section with all these folks involved in that. But it's tricky, and it doesn't surprise me though, because I think, as Kevin was saying, if something's proposed to somebody and it's going to maybe help them out to tell the court what their side was, or be honest as far as they recollect or whatnot, to kind of spare themselves. I think it's a tough thing to not take the oath and not perjure yourself and tell what happened. But still unfortunate.
Is there any questions, any comments, concerns? I know, Kevin, we talked about something about you were going to give away something, or did that not work out, or?
Well, yeah, one of the guys has some pictures I need to sign. I got to get together with him to sign them. It's an artist around here. He does some stuff, so we'll figure something out if we can give something away.
Cool. Sounds good. Well,
I don't know. Jason, yeah. We'll figure something out. We'll figure out how to get them out. Like I said, I got to meet up with them at some point and sign them. So.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you both. Well, before we leave, Kevin, just kind of introduced yourself since you came in after we had already started and all of that. And currently we have viewers out there right now. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, we do? Well, I was wondering if there was nobody on here. I was wondering where everybody was.
Oh, no, we have viewers watching us live right now. So they're on YouTube. We have a couple of viewers who want to say hi. They think it's cool you're in here. So
hello, everybody.
So if you want to introduce yourself to those who may or may not know you, because we kind of like to do that. So go ahead.
Kevin Mench, former Texas Ranger, retired. Now I take up golf and kids.
There you go. Well,
I'm a huge Philly sportsman.
There you go.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Kevin, how old are your kids? Oh.
Yeah. Middle of my 2.5.
Oh. All right. Yeah, I got a 3 and a 6.
2.5. So they just took a nap. I just got home from golfing. And
well, I appreciate you both joining tonight, and we caught up a little bit on some baseball.
My pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
And yeah, I like to do this weekly.
It's hockey season right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's hockey season.
I know. But
not for me, my man.
Not for me anymore, because I'm a Bruins fan. So.
Those Caps, man, they played out of their minds. That goalie.
Yeah, that was good. I'm glad. What's the score of that game right now?
Not currently watching it.
Oh, I got it. Hold on. Let's see. 1-1, and then Phoenix is down by 2 to Nashville. So.
That's gonna be a good.
The Flyers are ahead, right, in the series?
No, it's 1-1. They
okay.
played one period last night, and shit the bed the other two. They were terrible last night.
It's been a crazy tournament.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
There's been a lot of people on either hating the Rangers or liking them. So it's been kind of tense.
I just, as long as they're out, and I'm hoping the Caps win.
The whole thing, or just
LA's been dominant right now.
Yeah.
Just now beats the Rangers.
Oh, okay.
I hate the Rangers.
Yeah, see, again, it's either you love or you hate them, or you just don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I hate them. I hate them. So.
Alrighty, well, I'll let everybody get back to watching the games that are on, because I know NBA playoffs are on, hockey's on. So, again, thank you for joining me. Have a great night.
All right,
Shout
thanks
out to our viewers that are currently watching us. And hope to talk to everybody in the future.
Hit them long and straight, Kev.
Gotcha. I'll try to.
All right, my man.
All right. Have a great night.
We'll figure out how to get some of these pictures out too. We'll figure out some kind of contest too. So
that'll be cool.
Yeah, very much so. All right, guys. Safe travels. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya.